Welcome to Thunder Bay Live. I'm here today with Sergeant Stein, and we're doing a follow-up interview on Wanted Wednesday. And we're here to find out your questions, your comments, and see if they're valid, if they're true, and get that information directly to you. So I hope you pay close attention. Sergeant Stein, basically for the people out there right now, could you tell us if Wanted Wednesday is working?
Although I think Wanted Wednesday is working. We're in week 20 right now. To date, we have dealt with approximately 51% of the people that were on Wanted Wednesday. 45% of those have been by arrest. As a result of those arrests, we have executed 121 warrants. So if you did the math, roughly 50%, that's roughly 40 of the 80 people we've dealt with. 121 warrants, that's roughly 3 warrants per person that we've dealt with. So I think that it is a success.
So you had 80 people on Wanted Wednesday, and about 40 people have been arrested.
That's correct.
Or turned themselves in.
That's right.
Okay, and what, in comparison to no Wanted Wednesday, how does that relate?
Without the program, we would just be getting people as we happen to run into them. We have a very busy police service, so it's exhaustive looking for people that have warrants outstanding. At any given time, the Thunder Bay Police Service has approximately 1,700 warrants. People ask, well, why doesn't that number go down? If you pay attention to the other media, newspaper, television, whatever, you realize that we have crime ongoing constantly. So while we may arrest people, which will bring our number down, we have more activity that may also increase the number of warrants. So it's been staying at roughly 1,700 warrants with some consistency.
So Sergeant Stein, I want to ask you, these people that are on that list, they just have one thing written down, that's bench warrant. But they all have more than one warrant on this list.
Typically, the people that are on Wanted Wednesday that have bench warrants, they typically have other existing warrants that we are not allowed to advertise. It may be a committal warrant, it may be arrest warrants, but typically they all have additional warrants. And again, that's when you do the math with the number of people that we've dealt with and the number of warrants, it's roughly a 3-to-1 ratio. So that is evidence right there that the people that are on Wanted Wednesday typically have more than the one warrant.
So what you're saying when you say 3-to-1, you're saying on average, the people on Wanted Wednesday, on average, have 3 other warrants beside that bench warrant. Is that correct? Roughly.
If you use the on an average, I guess you could say that. Some may have one. We had one person that had, I think, something like 15 additional warrants. So, some people may have one additional warrant. Another person might have 15. They might have 3. On an average, we've dealt with roughly half of the people, executed 120 plus warrants. So on average, it's 3-to-1.
And when you go through the list to see who goes on Wanted Wednesday, how do you make your selection? Because there's obviously, it looks like, how do you make your selection? That must be a tough decision.
We go through the warrants, check to see who has a bench warrant, and we make a decision as to who we think should go on for that particular week. Myself and the crime analyst get together, go through the number of warrants. Like I said, we have at any given time 1,700 warrants outstanding. So there are quite a few people that have bench warrants, and we'll just go through it on a weekly basis and pick away, trying to get these matters dealt with.
And what's it costing society, the police force, when we don't have this Wanted Wednesday? Like, I know you can't have an exact number, but what does it mean to the police force when you have to do all that kind of work and you don't have the public helping you?
The public is absolutely key. I've said from the get-go that the big push for this is victims, so that victims can have some closure in their case. One of the things that police services in Ontario are mandated to do is to care for victims, and this is one of the ways that we can care for victims. People have committed an offense, they have been dealt with by the court, they have been given a form of release, and they have promised to appear, and they have made the choice not to appear to be dealt with in court. So they've likely made a bad choice initially committing the offense, and now they've made a follow-up bad choice in not appearing in court to deal with the matter. So I guess in some respects you could say that that in itself is priceless. People need to be responsible for their actions. They need to take responsibility. The victims need and deserve closure in their cases, and so that they can move on as well in their lives.
Now, you had an amnesty period, but if anybody turns themselves in, there's no extra crime, there's no extra charge. So anybody could still come to you and just say, listen, I want to, come forward and face my charge. They can still do that, right? With no extra charges.
Absolutely. The Thunder Bay Police Service headquarters on 1200 Balmoral Street is open 24/7. So if you have a warrant of any kind, you can certainly go and turn yourself in. Certainly you can contact your lawyer, and your lawyer can advise you in the best process to go about doing that. Oftentimes people come in with their lawyers and turn themselves in. They're dealt with forthwith through the courts, and they're back out on the street and have another date to deal with the matter. So the process does not have to be a difficult one. It can certainly be made easy by dealing with your lawyer and with the courts in the appropriate fashion.
Okay, and the other part of this is that sooner or later, they're going to catch these people, or they're going to be embarrassed when police show up and arrest them on their job or whatever. And you do need a police check for most jobs nowadays. So how does Wanted Wednesday affect them in that sense?
Certainly Wanted Wednesday could affect them in that sense. Again, if people have chosen to commit an offense and they've promised to appear in court, they should deal with the matter so that it can be dealt with. There may be a possibility that they're going to get found not guilty as a result of that. So if that's the case, then at some point in time they can certainly apply for a pardon and have their matters dealt with, so that when they do get a criminal records check, that's not going to show up on their criminal records search. The big push again is the victims. These people that have the warrants know that they have the warrant. They have just chosen to not appear in court to deal with the matter.
And when you talk about the victim, and a lot of people sort of say, well, these people have issues. They have drug and alcohol issues. There's things happening in their lives. They made a mistake. By being on the street, is that going to help them? Or do the courts address those issues? If someone has an alcohol, drug issue, do they have a better chance of getting help through the courts or on the streets?
I would say that they have a far better chance getting help through the courts. We fully realize that we have drug and alcohol issues, mental health issues in our city. We have more methadone clinics than the city of Toronto. We have found that oftentimes the only way that people can get help is through the court system, where the court basically dictates that they need to go into rehab. They need to get the help to get them going in the right direction. There are good people that make bad choices that find themselves in trouble with the law. There are a lot of those people that may find themselves with addictions, mental health, drug, alcohol, and they need some assistance, and they're not typically going to find it on the street. It's through resources that are available to the courts that they're going to get access to those resources and get the help that they need.
Now, Sergeant Stein, would it be okay if I said to the people out there, if they had any questions, concerns about this program, want stats, more stats, or could they contact you? Would that be okay?
Absolutely. We have had people contact us. I try to be forthwith, honest, upfront. We have nothing to hide on these matters. We get quizzed on all kinds of questions. One of the questions is the domestic violence. We typically do not put people on Wanted Wednesday that are involved in domestic violence issues, because again, one of the things that we are mandated as a police service to care for is that of victims. And we believe that by putting accused persons in the case of domestic violence, that often that will put the victim at higher risk. And in saying that, we have also had victims of domestic violence cases plead with us to put their perpetrator on the Wanted Wednesday program because they want some closure in the case. They don't want to be in fear of this person that has violated them and is out at large living freely. They want that person dealt with by the court. So again, we sometimes have people that seem to have a big heart for the accused people, but that big heart doesn't seem to be happening for the victims in cases, and I personally think that's wrong.
Well, Sergeant Stein, I'm glad you came here today and cleared up a lot of misinformation out there. I want to say that this week on Wanted Wednesday, I was happy to see a person that I know that has been committing crimes like crazy, and they showed up and there was one charge of fraud under $5,000. But I know that individual. I know the victims that they sort of swindled, and I was happy to see that person out there. And if I see him on the streets, believe me, I will turn him in as fast as possible. To the public out there, the police are there to help you, help society. We put them in that position. Let's help them. Do not be swayed by people trying to shame us or trying to shame people for reposting or helping our society. Thank you, Sergeant Stein, for being here today. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
And for you out there, Thunder Bay Live, once again, hopefully clearing up any questions and concerns you may have about Wanted Wednesday. Take care and have a great day.